Hey folks, Adam Adami with Adami Media Productions. Just want to give you a little review on this ATN Excite 2 HD from ATN. You can pick one up for about $600. I got mine for a little bit less than that. Had it for about 3 weeks, did some testing with it, went out to the range, and I'm going to give you a review, a little bit of a negative review compared to what you've been seeing online. You make your decision. I'm not a marksman, a professional marksman or anything like that. I just grew up plinking and doing some occasional varmint hunting. So I don't have a military background or anything like that, so take my review with a grain of salt. But just from a standpoint of plug and play, this thing is not plug and play, and there is a lot of setup involved. If you're going to move this thing from gun to gun, you're going to be constantly tweaking and setting things up. The menus are terrible. You're not going to look in the scope and change anything. You're going to find yourself trying to use a tablet or your phone with the Obsidian app and trying to get this thing dialed in. You have to enter in everything, from grain, windage, type of bullet, caliber, how many feet you are away from things. You're going to spend a lot of your time putting in and configuring this thing. And one of my biggest gripes is the battery life sucks really bad. So you end up having to, buy a battery pack for it. If you have a short stock or some type of mod where you don't have a whole lot of room to be, attaching something to, just, consider that you're probably going to, have to strap this thing on somewhere. And depending on what kind of gun you have, there may not be any place to put it. So, from a standpoint of just plugging and playing and getting, having some fun, you're not going to do that. You're going to spend a lot of time setting it up. And, before a hunt, you're probably going to spend a couple of hours out on the range trying to get the thing dialed in. It has supposedly a 2-shot zero-in that they brag about. Well, that's not really true, because you still have to get on paper, and you're going to find this thing is so bulky. Here's a little bit of footage of me trying to get it dialed in. You still got to get on paper, and you still have to do all the things that you would have to do on a regular scope. So that's a little bit misleading. Another thing I found is the Bluetooth the Bluetooth does nothing. The Wi-Fi is what you use your app to get on the Wi-Fi. The software is very buggy and glitchy. You just want to kind of look through a scope and get your settings and move around the menus quickly and get this thing set up. You're not going to do that. You're going to spend a lot of time getting everything configured. So in my opinion, the thing is worthless. What pissed me off a little bit more is it's got a time-lapse feature, and I thought, well, if I'm not using it 3 or 4 months out of the year, I can do some time lapses. It's got a nice scope on it. Or give you an example, let's say you had a varmint or a wolf or something on your property, and you were trying to catch him or figure out where he's getting in at, and you wanted to set a time lapse up overnight. Forget it. The time lapse on this thing is stupid. I think it's like 10 pictures or something. That it's terrible, the intervals, and you cannot tweak this thing. You cannot edit it. When I called to the company and talked to them about some of the bugs, they weren't interested at all in my opinions, in some of my feedback, and so that just pissed me off even more, and I ended up sending the stupid thing back. But if you can get around all that and you want to sit and mess with all the settings and set it up, It is pretty cool. It does work pretty cool once you get it set up. But again, if you think you're gonna just grab this thing and go with it, trust me, you're not gonna. You're gonna spend a lot of time getting it set up and fiddling with a tablet or a phone. You're gonna, I mean, I spent probably 2 or 3 hours out at the range trying to get this thing set up right, and I just find it to be really cumbersome, and I would rather spend the money. In fact, what I did was I sent mine back, and for a fraction of the cost, I bought just a manual scope. And matter of fact, here's the scope I got online from this company here, A.P or A.P. For $100, comes with the reticle, a laser, and a pretty decent scope. And it takes to calibrate it and zero it in compared to that X-Sight was so much easier. And I'm not out all the 2 or 3 hours of getting the thing set up. If I want to move it to another rifle, I can. And my setup is 20 to 30 minutes. So don't be deceived. Yeah, it's not a 2-shot zero in. You got a lot of stuff you got to enter in, and every time you change to a different rifle, you have to do all the same setup all over. So to me, it wasn't worth it. And if I was you, I'd wait till they work out the bugs and make this thing more plug and play, user friendly. And in my opinion, it's going to be a while before that happens. So I'm going to give this thing a thumbs down. It's not worth it. Save your money. Get you a scope and a spotter scope. Get you a time-lapse camera. Do some scouting before you go out and waste your time on this thing. Just my opinion. Thought I'd give you a little different view of this thing. There's a lot of positive reviews on this product, but I think for what you're paying for it and what you're actually going to get, and the ease of use makes this thing really just not worth it at all. That's my opinion. Hope this helps.